Hey everyone, how's it going? Guess what? It's snowing again. It's snowing again. Today we helped my daughter move. Interesting time. She had to move back in because there's some issues she was having. And because of those issues, it's kind of nice that she's where she's at, just in case she needs medical attention or anything like that. She's in the house here. We've got a few vehicles. I mean, we can always get her to the hospital or whatever, or to the doctors because she's really close. Um, Having a kid's never an easy thing. Um, Being a single parent is never an easy thing, and having your first child never an easy thing. Um, it's a good thing she's got the support she does from Cindy and I, because without it, I mean, to be in a completely foreign town around nobody you really know can trust or anything like that is be a horrible thing. Um, the father of her child, my grandson, is a jerk. Doesn't want anything to do with the baby. Makes every kind of excuse not to see it. And his name's not on a birth certificate, which is fine and dandy. Um, Believe it or not, my dad was the same way until later on, and finally he wanted everything to do with us and wasn't willing to do what he needed to do because I was at an age where I didn't need him. I was in my 30s. So, I'm going to help Eli through as much of his life as I can. And that's what his name is now, is Eli. So, and on his grandparents on the father's side thought Juliana messed around on him, and so nobody on that side of the family wants anything to do with Juliana or the baby, and that's horrible. That's a horrible feeling. To have the person you loved and cared for turn their back on you and their unborn child at the time, and that causes a lot of mental conflicts. And my daughter's a great woman. She really is. And I'm biased because I'm her father, but um, I don't think anybody should have to go through that. But like my grandparents were for my mom and I will be like my grandparents were towards me in my situation, and I will try to do everything I can for him to give him a brighter future, a brighter outlook. And you know, it's kind of weird. It's like life has gone in a full circle. You know, life has literally gone in a full circle, where the same thing I was put through with my mom and my dad and my grandparents gives me the opportunity to do just so much better, so much more than what my dad did for me, and the way he acted and the way he lived. And, in a lot of ways, it gives me encouragement. It gives me strength. Gives me some sort of guidance, too. I can thank my grandparents for that. After what happened with my mom and the way they took her in, helped her out, and until she became strong enough to stand on her own, definitely gives me guidance and support and kind of like a blueprint to go off of. And, with the way I believe and everything else, I mean, to see something like that so vivid and so real in the way I was trained, the way I was taught, and then biblically speaking, the way I believe and the way I was trained and the way I was taught and the way I live, um, my daughter does have it a hell of a lot better. And there I went swearing. But in this case, Was it really swearing when I'm referring to it itself? She's got different between night and day, you know. She really does. And yeah, her ex is literally following down, just going down the same road that my dad did. Literally, word for word, line for line, every action, every behavior. Um, yeah. Um, like I tried to explain to Juliana, her and the baby are better off without him. Let him go. Let him screw up the rest of his life. Let him be an idiot, a moron, whatever. Because, like my dad, the only one that's going to make him do anything is going to be the law when he breaks it. Okay? And the one that's going to make him do anything is the police or the sheriff or whatever when he violates any kind of law. It is not against the law to turn your back on your child. Okay? You can deny him being the parent of being your baby till you're blue in the face. You can't make somebody go get a blood test. You can't make them step up to the plate to be the parent they need to be or should be. You can't make them take financial responsibility. You can't. Especially when they don't have a job. You know. How are you going to make... It's like squeezing blood out of a turnip. Or trying to get water out of a rock. Okay? It just ain't going to happen. Let it go. He's the one missing out. And as bad as it sounds, he's the one that's going to suffer for it. The baby won't. The baby will grow up fine without him. I did. I grew up fine without my dad. And in fact, some ways, I think I grew up better without him. If you look at the way he turned out and his life, I look at it now that I'm in my 40s, almost 50, you know. I'm glad they never got involved. You know, I'm glad he turned and left. And I learned a few things. I learned a few things about myself through the time. I learned I became stronger as an individual. And I learned what was right and what was wrong. I didn't have somebody polluting my mind with saying it's okay to do this or it's okay to do that. You know, I didn't have to deal with that. I didn't have to deal with that negativity. I didn't have to deal with that dogma. And my mom loved me for me. She cared for me because she cared. And she did what she felt was best. And she tried to do her best. And that's all she could do. And that's all anybody could ask of somebody, you know. And yeah, I could sit there and criticize my dad and his kind of thing, and his selfish and self-centered behavior, his egotism, his arrogance, and his foolhardy nonsense, the way he lived. I could literally sit there and point fingers at him till I'm blue in the face, but you know what? It don't matter. Really. When it comes down to it, it don't matter. It's his life. He lived it the way he wanted to. He did what he wanted to. And he will die the way he chose. And that's his deal. And I'll be sad at his funeral, but I won't cry. I won't shed a tear. I'll be sad because of the way he lived, and he could have been so much better. He could have done better. He could have done more. He could have been there more. You know, we all need a shoulder to cry on every now and again. We all need, and he wasn't that. He was never that. He may have been the sperm donator, but he was never the father. And I don't think it knows what it means to be a good father. Because he doesn't want to be. And in a way, I hope, Eli's dad learns that sooner rather than later, but I don't count on it. Now that the fact that he's even denying the fact that it's his kid, which is normal. It's normal. You got to deny. You know, who in their right mind wants to sit there and deliberately turn your back on your offspring? You know, who deliberately wants to turn around and say, hey, that's my kid, but I was a deadbeat dad and I never wanted to take care of him? Who wants to admit that? I mean, really. And I'm not calling him out and I'm not pointing fingers at him. I'm saying nobody wants to admit that. You know, it's always easier to point the finger at somebody else and say, I don't know, you know, whatever kind of argument seems fit at the time. And, you know, a simple blood test would prove it, literally. And then what would he do? Besides be calling himself out to be a liar, being an idiot and a fool, being negligent, and turning his back on his responsibilities. You know, I remember a point in time, a phrase this kid had made to me, that no child of his would ever go hungry. No child of his would ever not have a place to stay. That's only partially true. Okay, that's only partially true. And the reason why is, as long as it's my offspring, it's a member of my family, I will see to it that the child never goes hungry or never has a place to stay. That's the way I live. I will do what I can to ensure the fact that my offspring, immediate or thereafter, has a place to stay and never goes hungry. That's the truth. And because he had a child with my daughter, therefore, I will make sure that that child never goes hungry. And I will make sure that that child is kept warm. And I will make sure that it has a place to stay because it is my lineage. It is part me. And I will not turn my back on me or my offspring, ever. He wants to be a jerk, let him. He was only partially correct when he said that. And it wasn't because of his doing. It's because it's my doing. And like I said, I'm not calling anybody out on this. And I don't care if he sees this video and he thinks I'm full of BS. But I know. I know by looking at the child, I see in its eyes. And I'm not looking forward to having to have that discussion with him when the kid asks me, well, where's my dad? I'm believing that hopefully Juliana finds a decent guy eventually and treats her with the respect she deserves and is so needing, and the love and the tenderness that we all crave. And that's my belief, okay? And when piece of crap comes back, I want to be able to say, yeah, your real dad was a fine piece of work. Sorry, Eli. But you have a guy here that does care a lot about you. Even though he's not your actual dad, he deserves the title. Okay? He deserves the right to be called dad. I'm just your grandfather, and I've been here as long as I can be. And I'm here for you. But this other guy here has probably been more and will be more of a father to you than your real dad ever was. And if you want to hear the stories about your real dad, I'll be happy to share them with you. Because I know in my heart, my daughter knows in her heart, and Eli would know, even a blood test would prove who the real father is, and deny it all he wants. I don't care. I really don't. I think in a lot of ways we are better off without him. I really do. Selfish, self-centered, egotistical in everything he says and does. It's all about him. To hell with everybody else and anybody else. Literally, to hell. He don't care where they go. He doesn't care what happens to them. He didn't even care about Juliana. And yet it was a woman that he, at one point in time, he was going to marry. You know? And it's unfortunate. It's sad. Because my daughter was led astray for so long. Was tricked. And she thought she was going to marry this guy, you know. Like all women do, you know. They think they hope for the best. They believe for the best. And, my other daughter, because I have three. I tell her, I said, if a guy's going to wait for you to have sex with him until they're married, that's a guy to keep around. Okay. He's willing to wait. It's not all about pleasing me and pleasing me now and right now. If a guy's willing to wait, let him wait. And it's for your safety and the child's safety, as well as for his. I mean, on your wedding night, if you break the membrane and you start bleeding, then it's obviously you were a virgin until you met the guy, and you end up pregnant, it's his. He knows it's his. You don't need a blood test to prove it. You don't need no chromosomes and whatever to prove it. It's proof right there. Personally, I wish I would have waited till I met the right woman, personally, because I dealt with a lot of other issues that sexual desires and things like that of the opposite sex. And that's the one thing. Once you have sex, you crave it more. It's almost like an addiction. And it's one of those things. I suggest everybody waits till they're married. Because if they can control their sexual urges that long, then maybe they can control their anger, and maybe they can control their frustration, their finances. Maybe if they can just control that one thing of sexual urges, wouldn't that be horrible? Condom companies would go out of business. Why? Because people wouldn't be needing to have sex. Just think of all the diseases that would be shut down. Literally. I mean, HIV wouldn't have an issue. They already take care of the medical ones, so you don't have that issue ever. Everything's sterilized and blood transfusions and everything else. There's no way you're going to get HIV from any of the medical things anymore. So, I mean, why have a condom? If you're only having sex with your own partner till the end of time, and that's the only person you have sex with, and they're the only one they're having sex with, then you're not going to be transferring any kind of diseases there. So, as narrow-minded as people think I am, it's kind of funny how many other issues in life that those do reflect upon, okay? Other circumstances and things like that. Yeah, and I'm sorry the Trojan company would go out of business. So would the other latex companies. But, hey, you guys make some hellacious latex gloves for, like, washing dishes and things like that. I mean, those things are pretty much leak-proof, and sterilized gloves. You guys got a whole line. I mean, so you're not making condoms anymore. You can still make condoms for people that are married that don't want kids, okay? It's still birth control that, you just won't have premarital sex going on. There ain't a problem with that, Just think. My daughter wouldn't be in the shoes she's in now had they waited. Because I don't think this guy would have ever gotten married. If they would have waited, I think he would have eventually lost interest because he wasn't getting any. He would have just gone somewhere else. And so I tell my other daughter, Adriana, I'm like, wait. You'll know on your wedding night when it's right. And if it's his first and your first, what a better time to have it with the person you're spending the rest of your life with. First and first. Hey, that's great. So he played with himself and you played with yourself. So what? But you spent that time intimately together on your wedding night, which is the way it technically should be. You know, you could wear white instead of an off-white or a cream color. You could actually wear white because you're pure. You know, once purity's gone, it's gone, man. Once you're not a virgin anymore, you're not a virgin. And just because you're a virgin doesn't mean you're pure. Okay? Pure is in the heart. Okay? But I suppose I'm going to let you go. That's my talk on philosophy. That's my talk on my religion, my beliefs, and it's talk on premarital sex. Wow, you didn't realize this video was going to be so jam-packed with knowledge and guidance and direction and things like that, did you? Anyway, have a good day and God bless you and have a great night. And hope to talk to you guys and see you guys later. Bye for now.